There's a lot to be said for starting out with a blank canvas. You know, when you're out in the backcountry, you have the time to think about, you know, where's the best place to make my mark on this slope. You know, it's kind of a thoughtful process. It is a lot like doing a drawing because, you know, you're very selective about where you put the lines. That's what makes all the difference. I got my first snowboard when I was in 8th grade, and it was this bright yellow GNU Chaos that weighed about 30 pounds. I just remember that first day of just being so frustrated, not being able to get that thing to turn, but absolutely, you know, not discouraged, just whatever it was gonna take, I was gonna learn how to turn that thing. Growing up in Camp Sherman was definitely a unique experience. It's a really small town. There weren't like the normal things to do. There's a store, but there's not really anything else in Camp Sherman. So I'd kind of spend my days when I wasn't at school fishing or drawing. That was kind of my main thing to do. And it definitely shaped me in just the things that I value. I ended up going to Montana State University, mostly for the snowboarding at the time. After college, I landed a job at a major apparel company in Portland, and I worked there for 5 years. And during that time, I went from like super green to almost jaded. Mostly it was, you know, I really wanted to move out to Central Oregon and be closer to the mountains, be closer to all the things that I love to do. And I wanted to find a way to make that work. I knew this was gonna happen. Oh boy. There we go. Taking that risk of going out on my own, I definitely had a lot of second thoughts. It was probably the first 3 years, you know, I was just always really stressed about where that next job was gonna come from. You know, draining my bank account, lots of all-nighters. Yeah, it was not easy, but it was well worth it. You know, I'd probably make a lot more money if I lived in the city and worked for a company, but I get to work on just an incredible array of different projects, and that's an experience that, you know, I wouldn't trade for anything. I gather a lot of my inspiration from being outdoors and getting out of my studio. You know, this is where the work gets done, but it's not often where my ideas come from. You know, I had an older friend that was really into going out in the backcountry and be away from the crowds, and he took me out a few times. It's worth a lot more to you, and you have to earn it when you have to hike to it. I've been out in some areas that were just so stunningly beautiful and completely untouched. You can take your time and maybe only get 1 or 2 runs in, but they're like the best runs ever. And that's something that I'll never get tired of. The 3 things that I'm always trying to balance are work, playtime, and family. I feel like if you're able to challenge yourself with your job and do things that are fulfilling, but also have, you know, a rich life, get to go out and travel and, you know, and have a great family, that's a really wealthy person, I guess.